Hello again. This is Alina Johnson, CIO and owner of Johnson Consulting Services. And today is Wednesday, September 28th. It's a little afternoon, so let's get to it. Today, we'll be discussing all things notary, and we'll actually travel around the world in this discussion. It was a lot of fun to make. I hope that you think so too. If so, please comment and contact us. We're DetroitJCS here on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So let's get to it. I'll be starting a presentation now. All right, here we are. So again, I am Alina Johnson, CIO and owner of Johnson Consulting Services, and this is All Things Notary, our weekly series here on YouTube every Wednesday at noon. This is our permissive use policy. And join us here Wednesdays. Do subscribe to our channel below. And today's agenda is just a lot of fun. I've been reading through some news articles that affect and impact notaries, and some of these stories are a lot of fun. Hopefully you'll find them interesting too. Know that our work is essential to the economy. As Notaries Public, we help eliminate fraud. We can't always do that, but in each of these cases, you'll see our connection. So here we go. Aloha from Hawaii. So, I'll read through this one. These are hilarious, some of them. Some of them are not so funny, but you'll know that had a reputable notary been employed or contacted, a lot of these situations could have been avoided. So here we go. A Hawaii man's body was found in a bathtub filled with concrete. Police say his lover killed him. In his last email to his brother, Gary Ruby, 73, announced that he had found a new love interest. His name was Juan, and he was much younger than Gary. But by early March, Gary's brother, Lorne, stopped hearing from his brother. It had been 3 weeks since their last exchange, so Lauren asked police to do a welfare check at Gary's home in a gated community. When police arrived, they found Juan staying at the house. It wasn't long before they found Gary's body in the bathtub, covered in concrete, coffee grounds, and several insects. Now Juan Barron, 23, has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder in the killing. Barron was also charged with first-degree theft and identity theft in what the Honolulu Police Department says were Barron's attempts to claim ownership of Ruby's multi-million-dollar home and his Audi sedan following his death. Barron was arrested in Anaheim, California on a Greyhound bus headed for Mexico. Police discovered him hiding in a crawl space under a bench in the back of the bus. Honolulu police said in a news release that Barron was being held without bail. No attorney for Barron is listed in court records. Barron told police that he owned the house, and a community security guard knew that Ruby bought the house in 2020. The guard told Barron that he needed to register ownership at the community's main office. So Barron then tried to email the office an unsigned and unnotarized deed from Ruby's email address. On the registration forms, Barron also wrote down the number for a 24-hour fitness as his contact information. During the search of the house the next day, police investigators discovered Ruby's body in the bathtub. And Barron was arrested by the U.S. Marshals and the LAPD. So, there's a long story in the affidavit. You can read more. I'll be sure to put the link in. But did you hear that? I mean, really, he actually sent an unnotarized, unsigned deed by email. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's get to the next one. Viva Las Vegas. This one is a little more interesting. No one can find the person who fraudulently sold one of Tony Say's Las Vegas properties. The sale may be tied to a larger scheme. Attorneys cannot find the person who fraudulently sold a downtown Las Vegas apartment building that is worth more than $1 million. Tony Say bought the building at South 9th Street in Bridger in 2012, county records. In March, someone representing the LLC that owns the building sold it for $1.2 million. Now, Say died in a house fire in November 2020 in Connecticut. He was only 46. His father is the administrator of his estate since his son didn't leave a will. However, the future of his assets is playing out publicly in probate. The fraudulent transaction filed with the county and provided in court documents shows the sale with a warranty deed from a person named Santiago Espinoza. But lawyers for the estate claim no such person has the authority to act on behalf of the company, and they don't know who Espinoza is. This particular article I like because it shows the documents. The estate became aware of the sale, and lawyers aren't even sure Espinoza is a real person. Attempts to contact a person with that name through social media has returned nothing. In addition, the lawyers for the estate cannot find the person who notarized this fraudulent sale. Multiple subpoena attempts have been conducted to obtain the notary pages for this signature. However, none of these attempts have been successful, lawyers wrote in court documents. Notes connected to court paperwork about serving court notices indicate the person attempted to serve the notary with papers. 2 times, there was no answer. A 3rd time, the person serving the paperwork talked to a neighbor who said the server had the wrong address. As late as August, the server talked to a resident who said the person was kicked out of the apartment. Basically, they had been evicted. The person was described in this instance as a white man with blonde hair and a tattoo on his neck. This may be part of a larger scheme to defraud real estate buyers across Las Vegas Valley. Now, Say led retail giant Zappos for 20 years. He retired as CEO in August 2020, just months before his tragic death. He played a pivotal role in the revitalization of downtown Las Vegas, owned dozens of buildings, and was worth an estimated $840 million at the time of his death. So that is our second story. Let's go to the next. No boundaries. This particular story takes us from Bulgaria, Egypt, Greece, Iraq, Israel, Italy, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Syria, Turkey. This is worldwide. So let's take a look at this one. U.S. billionaire Michael Steinhardt surrenders $70 million stolen art. And this is a picture of Michael. An American hedge fund billionaire, that's with a B, has surrendered 180 looted and illegally smuggled antiquities valued at $70 million. He's been handed an unprecedented lifetime ban on acquiring other relics as part of an agreement with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, the Manhattan DA. Michael Steinhardt is one of the world's largest collectors of ancient art and displayed a rapacious appetite for plundered artifacts, the DA said. A lifetime ban marks the dramatic culmination of an international investigation that officially began in 2017. The DA office said its inquiry found compelling evidence that the antiquities were stolen from 11 countries, that at least 171 of these artifacts passed through traffickers before being bought by Steinhardt. They lack something called verifiable provenance. That term means they don't know where they originated. The original bills of sale are lacking. And this is on the international art market. The office of the DA added that it had executed 17 judicially ordered search warrants, and they conducted joint investigations with law enforcement authorities in those countries I mentioned: Bulgaria, Egypt, Greece, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Syria, and Turkey. Steinhardt, who had been chairman of the board, denied criminal wrongdoing in resolving the matter, and ended a grand jury investigation. So his pursuit of new additions to showcase and sell knew no geographic or moral boundaries. He relied upon antiquities traffickers, crime bosses, money launderers, tomb raiders, anyone to expand his collection. So that's our second story. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. For the birds. Bet you're wondering what this one is about. Well, this is interesting. A pigeon was sold for $1.9 million to a Chinese bidder named Super Duper. New Kim is worth her weight in gold and then some. A wealthy Chinese pigeon racing fan put down a record price of 1.6 million euros. That's $1.9 million in US for a Belgian bred bird, saying a lot more than merely what kind of money can be made in this sport. During the frantic last half hour of a 2-week auction, two Chinese bidders, operating under the pseudonym Super Duper and Hitman, drove up the price by about $325,000, leaving the previous record in the dust. Super Duper got the hen, and it's believed to be a wealthy Chinese industrialist who already had another record-selling pigeon, allowing for breeding with the two expensive birds. Top breeders, relying on generations of family experience, can sell their birds for record prices. On this occasion, birds were put on auction, and the overall sale was pushing past $7 million. It was one amazing weekend for a pigeon breeder. Birds can live up to 15 years, and the head of the Belgian Pigeon Federation says everybody is interested in our pigeons. Globalization has made this a worldwide sport. Now, how do notaries come into this? Well, someone has to verify and authenticate that the bird is who they say it is. So you know that documents need to be notarized for these types of transactions to take place without fraud. Next story. I call it fart work. Fake artwork. So here we go. And you see a scroll and some stamps. So let's see what this one is about. A stolen scroll worth $300 million. $300 million was found cut in half. Hong Kong police have arrested 3 men in relation to a $645 million heist that included calligraphy by the communist leader Mao Zedong and other revolutionary art and artifacts. A calligraphy scroll by Mao Zedong has been found cut in half after it was stolen from a collector's apartment in a high-profile Hong Kong burglary, worth estimated at $300 million. It was privately resold to a man who thought it was a counterfeit. That's where a notary would come in. The buyer is one of 3 suspects arrested so far in connection with this heist of a calligraphy scroll. The 9-foot scroll was allegedly cut into 2 pieces for storage purposes. Oh my God. The owner of the scroll and renowned collector of art from the Communist Revolution, Fu Sanzhao, says he is heartbroken by the damage to the work. It will definitely affect the value. So he's hoping for the best. In September, Fu told investigators that valuables had been taken from his flat after he had been informed of the break-in. This collector lives in mainland China, and he uses his apartment for storage. The scroll was the most expensive work taken from his apartment, But other notable items include a Chinese postage stamp printed with the words, "The whole country is red." It was issued in 1968 and is only one of 9 believed to exist. Another stamp was auctioned for $2 million in 2018, making it one of the most expensive stamps in the world. And if you are a philatelist, a stamp collector, then you know that is heartbreaking. Although some of the stolen items have been found, 24,000 stamps and 6 other calligraphy scrolls have not been recovered. At least 2 people connected with this burglary are still said to be at large. And I checked for an update, and those things are, I guess, now on the black market. Mao Zedong, like me, was a master calligrapher. He was, I am. He's better remembered as the founding father of the People's Republic of China, one of the most recognized and controversial political figures of the 20th century. He led the Communist Party of China until his death in 1976. So, again, had a reputable notary been consulted, he would know that the artifacts were in fact not counterfeit, or at least had some assurance with the services that a notary provides. Next story will be indicted. And it looks like we'll have to get back to that one, and we'll go straight to 2 planes and a stamp. So this story is about a bait and switch, I guess is what you would call it. So a thief stole 2 airplanes with a signature and a couple of stamps. So how did that happen? When Michel Rene Hughes registered his new airplane with the FAA last February, well, this is a couple years old, he submitted all the necessary paperwork, including a signed bill of sale, showing he had bought a 1981 Piper Seminole from a private seller for $115,000. Although the return address on the envelope didn't match the address listed on the registration form, he included a standard $5 registration fee, and everything else seemed to be in order. A couple of weeks later, the FAA registry officially transferred ownership. A twin-engine, 3-passenger plane over to Mr. Hughes. And I like this article too because it shows the document. Hughes, who identifies as male but registered as Mrs. Michelle Hughes, then listed the plane for sale on the online marketplace aerotrader.com. Now, as notaries, we know that we are to check the ID against the person standing before us. The ID is unexpired, so you would be able to see if that is the person giving you the identification. Here in Michigan, we record identification in a journal. Although it is not required, it is a best practice. And back to the article. I own a 1981 Piper PA44 180T, said Hughes ad, which asked for $125,000 for the plane. I have proof of ownership in hand from the FAA. The plane is located in Shelton, Washington, well cared for, and I want to find it a new home. I can even accept trades, negotiated on the price. So a potential buyer responded, but said he didn't have enough money to buy the Piper outright. In a series of emails and text messages, Hughes offered to arrange financing, floated the idea of selling 50% of the plane for $62,500 and sharing ownership. Hughes texts the potential buyer, "You can check it out anytime you want to. The door is unlocked. The plane is at the airport. Fly it. My car won't make it to Shelton." This is someone who is selling an airplane for over $100,000, texting and emailing someone that their car won't make it to the airport. Nearly 3 weeks went by. An impatient Hughes texts the prospective buyer again, saying that someone else was interested. "If I don't get something today," Hughes said, "I will have to sell it to someone else." What Hughes didn't know was the customer was in fact an undercover DHS agent. According to the criminal complaint filed in federal court, the paperwork he sent to the FAA was phony, something that only came to light when a worker at the Washington State Department of Transportation placed a call to the Piper's previous owner to confirm their cancellation of the plane's registration. The confused owner, a U.S. Navy doctor in Gig Harbor, said he hadn't sold his plane, nor did he intend to. After the aircraft is registered on paper, the new fraudulent owner sells the aircraft to an unsuspecting buyer who pays money but doesn't receive the airplane in return. The new owner takes off with the money. Scam artists have used this form of identity theft to illegally take ownership of homes, boats, cars, and now airplanes. According to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, consumers reported losing nearly $2 billion with a B dollars to fraud in 2019. Who's at risk? Anyone. Seniors, social media users, members of the military, the deceased, all at risk. The FAA official cited in the complaint told investigators that the agency takes all documents at face value, doesn't question anything. DHS agents met with the Piper's owner, the real owner, and noticed that the signature looked nothing like the one on the purported bill of sale. The actual owner said he didn't know Hughes and had never met him before. And he had since installed an anti-theft device in his airplane to keep it safe. At the same time, the fraudulent owner was trying to sell a second airplane he didn't own. And on and on. I'll put the links in the description so you can read more. And last but not least, the rare yellow rose. This is one of my favorites. This is a story out of Michigan. Jeweler who sold the Trump Maples ring sentenced to 12 years in a multi-million-dollar yellow rose diamond scam. And that is a picture of the yellow rose. A Michigan jeweler to the stars who twice auctioned an engagement ring Donald Trump gave to his second wife, Marla Maples, has been sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison for running a multi-million-dollar scam involving the sale of a 77-carat diamond. Joseph Dumochel, who ran a well-known jewelry business outside of Detroit, admitted he fleeced several investors in the purported purchase of a huge diamond known as the Yellow Rose, pocketing the cash and using it to pay off his numerous debt. Mr. Dumochel was engaged in a desperate effort to repay creditors and repeatedly made similar false representations to secure money and items to pay debt. His attorney in court filings argued for a more lenient sentence. Federal prosecutors, however, said the 61-year-old utilized his years of experience in the jewelry business to operate a ploy to convince several clients that they were buying a stake in the giant stone. Victims were often targeted because of their involvement in jewelry investment, purchase, and auction trade, or they were family members and friends of Dumochel. Dumochel's attorney didn't respond to a request for comment from the newspaper. One victim lost $12 million to this scam in 2019. For this particular scam, prosecutors say Dumochel contacted Thomas Ritter, excuse me, to whom he owed $400,000, and told him about a deal where he could purchase the Yellow Rose stone for $12 million from one seller and sell it to a second buyer that he had lined up for $16 million. So you buy at 12 and you can sell it at 16, making a $4 million profit. So Ritter agreed, and Dumochel instructed him to wire the money to an account that Ritter believed belonged to the seller. Well, it was actually Dumochel's own account. He then fabricated a phony bill of sale that showed the stone had been subsequently sold for $16 million, when in fact the actual diamond had never been purchased in the first place. He used the $12 million he received to pay back a number of debts that he owed, and he stalled Ritter by telling him the proceeds of the sale would be coming soon. He ran this same scheme on others and took in approximately $25 million. In a bankruptcy filing in 2020, he and his wife stated they had $2.3 million in assets and $23.4 million in liabilities. The reason for the bankruptcy. In 2000, he helped Marla Maples auction off the 7.45 carat diamond engagement ring that Donald Trump had given to her before they married in '93. The ring sold for, wait for it, $110,000. Dumochel's family has been longtime art dealers and jewelers in Michigan, with celebrity clients that included Aretha Franklin and Elizabeth Taylor. So that is our last of the PowerPoints today. Thank you for joining us for All Things Notary. I was so excited to go through those stories with you today. That one in particular, the need for a notary is pretty obvious. But if you have any questions, please comment, contact us on social media if you want to talk about any stories that you've read where a notary would have been essential. Next week, October 5th at noon, we'll be right here live. Bring a friend. And if you're interested in financial literacy, tune in Mondays at noon too. So that's October 3rd. We'll discuss and have discussed things like the student loan debt program that Biden announced, public service loan forgiveness, due dates, and the Fed Now program. We have more content through the month of October. So we're here Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays, financial literacy. Wednesdays, all things notary. So make sure to subscribe to us below. We're on Twitter and Instagram as DetroitJCS. And again, thank you for joining us today. This is our weekly series sponsored by Johnson Consulting Services. Our weekly series is noon here Wednesdays on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you soon.